instead of wanting to quickly and thoroughly resolve this nuisance once and for all, she figured that if she went today to meet him face to face and clearly reject him, she could have peace of mind forever after. So she excused herself to her friend, saying she had something to take care of and would be right back, an hour at most, and then she'd meet them at the nightclub. Her friends were a bit worried, but seeing Lily's determined and confident attitude, they didn't try to talk her out of it. Around 8 p.m., Lily walked into the Tianyuan Hotel alone, heading up to the 13th floor toward room 1303. Simply thought this would be a brief conversation to put an end to the persistent harassment once and for all, after which she would return to her friends and continue her fun evening. But Lily had no idea that waiting for her behind that door was someone whose reason had been completely overtaken by desire. A little after 9 p.m., when Dainuo noticed her friend had been gone for quite a while without returning, she began to feel a bit worried. She took out her phone and called Lily to check on the situation and see when she might be back. On the other end of the line, Lily's voice still sounded fairly normal. She said she was still talking with Erky and asked her friend to wait a little longer. About 20 minutes later, Dainuo and the group had made their way to the front of the nightclub as originally planned, and they called again to urge Lily to come. This time, Lily's answer was still just, wait a bit more. Everyone was getting a little impatient, but didn't think too much of it. At 10:25 p.m., Dainuo decided to call one more time, and this time, she clearly sensed that something was very wrong. On the other end, Lily's voice had completely changed from before. Her speech had become slurred and unclear, as if she were in some kind of half-conscious state. Lily seemed to be struggling to speak, her words halting and fragmented. She told Dainuo to wait for her at the nightclub entrance in 20 minutes. She would be there. By now, Dainuo's heart was filled with intense worry. She began to wonder whether Lily had been forced to drink, or whether something had happened to her. Sure enough, just as she feared, the promised 20 minutes passed. Lily was nowhere to be seen. Anxiously, Dainuo called her friend's phone again, but this time all she got was the cold, mechanical message indicating the phone had been turned off. An overwhelming sense of dread washed over Dainuo. Without wasting another second, she immediately had her classmates track down Erky's phone number and frantically dialed it. The moment the call connected, Erky's voice came through, panicked and stammering. I think something's wrong with her. Get over here now. Those words hit like a bolt of lightning out of a clear sky. Before anyone could process what was happening, the whole group dropped everything, rushed out of the nightclub, and grabbed a taxi speeding toward the Tianyuan Hotel, their minds racing with fear and confusion. A group of friends rushed up to the 13th floor and stood in front of room 1303, pounding on the door repeatedly. They knocked and knocked, but it was a long time before Erky finally opened the door. Where's Lily?
Ciao.
Dainuo burst in and demanded immediately. Faced
Ate,
with her urgent
inita na lang sa
question, Erky
microwave.
said nothing. He just silently
Yeah.
jerked his chin toward the bedroom in a wordless
Oh,
gesture.
mainit naman.
When Dainuo and her friends hurried into the bedroom, the sight that met their eyes was something they would never be able to forget for the rest of their lives. Lily lay motionless on the bed, her clothes disheveled and exposed. Her face had turned a terrifying shade of purple, while her lips and fingernails had darkened to an ominous black. Her left eye was half
English
open in a
only.
disturbing way,
English.
the whites streaked with red blood vessels. Her arms and upper body were covered with large and small purple bruises, like evidence of some terrible struggle or violence. In their state of utter shock and terror, someone managed to collect themselves enough to quickly dial 120 for an ambulance and 110 to report to the police. About 20 minutes after receiving the call, the emergency medical team and police arrived at the scene one after another. But it was far too late. After examination, the doctors confirmed that Lily had been dead for quite some time. Based on the degree of rigor mortis and the lividity marks that had appeared on her skin, they estimated the time of death to be around 10:30 p.m., just shortly after her last phone call with her close friend Dainuo. This meant that while Dainuo had been anxiously waiting for news from her friend, Lily had probably already left this world.
Hello.
Lily's parents received the devastating news, but
Hi.
it wasn't until 1:30 a.m. the following morning that they were able to reach the hospital. When her mother Wang Shu stepped into the morgue and saw with her
Good
own eyes the
morning.
cold, tragic body of her beloved daughter. She felt as if the
Good
entire
morning.
world was collapsing before her. The pain was too great to bear, and she fainted on the spot. During the crime scene investigation, police also collected two important pieces of evidence. First, examination results showed that Lily had engaged in sexual intercourse with someone before her death. Second, on the carpet right next to the nightstand, they found a hotel notepad paper with traces of sedative powder on it. All the evidence collected pointed unanimously to one person, Erky, the one who had been in the room with Lily on that fateful night. However, when confronted with police questioning, Erky displayed an attitude of brazen defiance that was hard to believe. He claimed ignorance of everything they asked, denying any involvement as if he were completely uninvolved in the matter. And what made people even more outraged was that on the very night of the incident, Erky wasn't even formally detained for investigation. Instead, his own father, a high-ranking official in the public security system, came and took him straight back to his own unit under the guise of disciplinary confinement. Only after the determined and persistent demands of Lily's family did police finally arrest Erky for investigation 2 days later. But the Lian family couldn't have imagined that a mere 6 days after that, police would release Erky as if nothing had happened. A sense of foreboding and anxiety began to engulf the entire Lian family, who suspected that something was very wrong behind the scenes. On July 19th, the Lian family received an official forensic examination report from the authorities. The conclusion left them in utter disbelief. Lily was determined to have died from acute hemorrhagic pancreatitis, a natural disease rather than homicide. This conclusion was something Lily's parents simply could not accept, no matter how hard they tried. Their daughter had always been healthy and had never had any history of serious illness. How could she suddenly die from such a rare, acute disease?
Ate, kape!
If it really was death from natural causes, why were there bruises and signs of assault all over her body?
Ikaw, anong gusto
To find the
mo?
truth for their daughter, Mr. and Mrs. Lian tried to suppress the immense grief tormenting them and began conducting their own investigation. They went to libraries throughout the city, searching for and studying every medical resource about pancreatitis
Happy
they
New
could find.
Year!
Beyond that, they took the forensic report everywhere, seeking meetings and opinions from leading experts and professors at major hospitals in the province and city. Notably, all the medical experts they consulted gave remarkably consistent answers. The doctors all confirmed that patients with acute pancreatitis experience extremely obvious and severe symptoms when the condition strikes. Excruciating abdominal pain that's impossible to endure, accompanied by continuous vomiting. With that level of pain, a patient simply cannot hide it or suffer in silence. Furthermore, when examining the pathological samples provided by the forensic team, Lily's pancreatic tissue showed no obvious signs of inflammation or the necrotic lesions typical of pancreatitis,
Kape!
only some minor bleeding points. These findings were completely insufficient to support a conclusion that the cause of death was pancreatitis. Some experts even pointed out frankly that mechanical asphyxia also causes internal organ hemorrhaging, and this is basic knowledge that any competent forensic examiner would know. Right at this point, Lily's mother, Wang Shu, accidentally discovered a fact that made her blood run cold and filled her with even greater outrage. She learned that a doctor working at the very hospital where Erky's mother was employed had secretly performed an autopsy on her daughter's body without the family consent or notification. Even more horrifying, after this secret autopsy, some of Lily's internal organs had vanished without a trace. What made it even more infuriating was that the doctor who performed this examination had no forensic qualifications whatsoever and no legal authority to conduct such work. All of this clearly indicated that someone was using power and connections to cover up the truth, attempting to disguise a brutal rape and murder as a death from natural causes. Facing these dark truths, Lily's family could not swallow their outrage. They strongly demanded that authorities conduct another forensic examination to uncover the truth. But local police kept stalling, dragging things out without providing any satisfactory response. Only on August 29th, after numerous struggles and pressure, did the Ministry of Public Security finally send 2 forensic experts to review the case. At this point, The Lian family placed great hope in this second examination, believing that with intervention from higher authorities and experts from the central government, the truth would surely come to light. However, what awaited them was another devastating blow beyond belief. The two forensic examiners sent by the Ministry of Public Security, after reviewing the files and evidence, both concluded that the original examination report was completely correct with no errors. This second examination result nearly destroyed the grief-stricken mother Wang Shu completely. She understood better than anyone that once her daughter's body was cremated, all physical evidence would be lost to ashes forever, and her daughter's wrongful death would never have a chance to be vindicated. Refusing to let that happen, this desperate mother made a decision that shocked everyone. She spent her own money to buy a large freezer to preserve her daughter's body, determined to hold on to this final piece of evidence at any cost. During those painful days, Wang Shu personally used cotton and gauze to carefully fill her daughter's empty abdominal cavity. She gently stroked her daughter's cold face, just as she used to do when putting her to sleep each night. Tears streamed down the aging mother's face as she wept and whispered a solemn vow that she would definitely get justice for her child. While Wang Shu and her husband were running around day and night, knocking on doors at one government office after another seeking justice for their daughter, Erki was living freely outside the reach of the law as if nothing had happened. His life seemed completely unaffected by Lily's death. Relying on the fact that his family had used their power and money to smooth everything over, he continued his decadent and extravagant lifestyle just as before. In April 2001, less than a year after Lily was killed, Erki even had the audacity to throw an extremely lavish and elaborate wedding. When news of this wedding reached Wang Shu, it was
Tuloy
like
si
a sharp
Anjo.
knife stabbing through her heart. Her daughter's body was still lying in a freezer waiting for justice, yet her
Nakasakay
killer
na.
was beating drums and gongs, joyfully welcoming his new bride home. By this point, Wang Shu clearly understood that the opposing family's influence was too vast, their network of relationships intricately woven throughout the local power structure. Trying to seek justice through normal channels seemed virtually impossible anymore. But she refused to surrender to fate.
Turo.
Ordinary people also have the right to fight and expose the truth. Over the following years, Wang Shu began pouring forensic medicine page by page. She learned to read and understand professional terminology, studied legal procedures, and researched every legal provision that might help her daughter's case. She persuaded her husband to sell
Kamusta
all their
kayo?
family assets, using the money to hire lawyers and continuously file appeals with various levels of government agencies. The
Senior Power at half the price ng Giving Senior Milk Brand.
tireless persistence of this mother was finally rewarded when she received a crucial breakthrough. In June 2001, under growing pressure from public opinion and directives from higher authorities, the Anshan City Procuratorate was compelled to reopen the case for review. At the same time, to obtain the most authoritative examination results possible, the Procuratorate decided to send Lily's pathological tissue samples to the testing center under the Ministry of Justice in Shanghai for independent examination. Wang Shu understood that these samples were the key evidence, the only remaining hope to clear her daughter's name. After everything that had happened, she no longer trusted anyone. Cautious in every step, and to prevent anyone from switching the evidence midway, she personally bought plane tickets and carried the container holding tissue samples cut from her daughter's organs, flying to Shanghai with the forensic examiners. Not once, but 3 times she made this journey. In September, the test results from Shanghai were finally announced. The conclusion stated clearly, Lily's cause of death was not pancreatitis. This result completely overturned the 2 previous examinations conducted by local public security, proving that those reports had been false. Holding this new report in her hands, Wang Shu wept uncontrollably, tears streaming down her face. She believed she had taken another big step closer to the truth and justice. But she didn't realize that the difficulty and complexity of this case far exceeded anything she and her family could have imagined. Despite now having in hand this authoritative examination report from the Ministry of Justice, Anshan police stubbornly refused to acknowledge it. They argued that the report only ruled out pancreatitis as the cause of death, but could not determine the specific cause of death, and therefore refused to classify the case as a homicide. Naturally, they also refused to arrest Erkey for investigation. In anger and frustration, Lily's family continued to demand that authorities conduct yet another examination. But they couldn't have expected that this next examination would be even more baffling and disappointing than all the previous ones. This time, forensic examiners from the Supreme People's Procuratorate were invited to conduct the examination. With the highest authority in the judicial system, everyone assumed this result would be the final, fair verdict. But the conclusion that was delivered left the victim's family feeling like they'd been struck by lightning. The forensic team concluded that Lily died from alcohol consumption combined with sedatives causing pancreatic hemorrhage, and that this constituted natural death rather than homicide. In an instant, the sky seemed to collapse before the Lee family. Hope had been kindled and shattered, time after time. Each time they thought they were about to grasp justice, they were pushed back to the starting line. The legal battle seesawing around autopsy reports seemed endless, dragging on in hopelessness. It wasn't until March 5th, 2003, nearly 3 years after Lily's death, that the case finally received its most critical and decisive turning point. Thanks to tireless advocacy efforts from multiple parties, a professional forensic conference on the case was convened in Shenyang City, Liaoning Province. Attending this conference were 7 of the nation's top forensic medicine experts, considered masters in the field of forensic examination. After meticulously and thoroughly studying all pathological samples, case files, and all previous examination results, the 7 experts reached a unanimous conclusion that was completely overturning. Lily could not possibly have died from acute hemorrhagic pancreatitis, as previous examinations had concluded. Instead, the most likely cause was death by mechanical asphyxiation, meaning she had been strangled or smothered to death. The experts also confirmed that this case needed to be classified as a criminal case and investigated as a homicide. This was already the 5th examination, and the conclusion from these 7 leading experts completely demolished all the lies and cover-ups that had come before. Anshan police had no choice but to arrest Erkey once again for criminal investigation. Yet things still didn't stop there. Due to the lack of direct evidence proving the act of murder, the local procuratorate twice in succession cited insufficient evidence as grounds to refuse approval for the suspect's arrest. During that period, Wang Shu was once invited to police headquarters to meet and discuss her daughter's case with the bureau chief. At that meeting, the chief directly asked her whether the case could be settled through accepting a large compensation payment. Wang Shu firmly refused and expressed her iron determination to investigate until the truth was fully revealed. In early 2004, Wang Shu once again packed up all the materials and evidence she had collected over the years and set off alone for Beijing. The persistence and tireless efforts of this aging mother were finally rewarded when she succeeded in attracting the attention of the highest levels of leadership. On April 8, 2004, 5 experts from the Ministry of Public Security, after reviewing the entire case file, unanimously concluded that this case still had too many unanswered questions and needed to be formally reopened for serious investigation from the beginning. 6 months later, police arrested Erkey for the 3rd time. But this time there was an important difference. To completely cut off all communication between Erkey and the outside world, as well as the protective umbrella of power behind him, the suspect was transferred directly to Panjin City to be detained at a location far from Anshan. Away from Anshan, the territory where his family's network of connections could shelter and protect him, Erkey's magic finally lost its power. The special task force established to investigate this case had early on recognized that trying to pry the truth directly from Erkey's mouth would be like trying to climb to heaven. He was a stubborn character, well protected and well coached, and wouldn't easily confess to anything that could hurt him. Therefore, they decided to adjust their case-breaking strategy. Instead of focusing on the main suspect, they would first seek breakthroughs from the people around him. The police's first target was Lily's close friend Dainuo, who had moved away to Hainan long ago. When police showed up in front of her, Dainuo's psychological defenses collapsed immediately. Under repeated persuasion and intense psychological pressure from the task force, she broke down crying and confessed to giving false testimony years earlier. It turned out that the day after the incident, Erky had sought her out and used both monetary inducements and death threats to force her to follow a pre-scripted story, lying to police that Lily and Erky had been in a romantic relationship for years and that the sexual encounter had been consensual. Out of fear, Dainuo had betrayed both her friend and her own conscience. She said that for all those years, she had been living in deep self-blame and terror. Shortly after, the task force continued working with Jing Ting, a close friend of Erky. Faced with increasingly clear evidence, Jing Ting provided crucial information. Erky had previously shown an obsessive and persistent interest in Lily. On the night of the incident, Erky had actually come to Jing Ting, asking how to handle the situation with Lily. Instead of trying to stop him, Jing Ting had suggested drugging the victim. These two independent testimonies completely demolished Erky's previous claims about his relationship with the victim and assertions that everything had been consensual. Almost simultaneously, the results of the sixth and final forensic examination were released. The report confirmed that the victim's lungs showed serious damage. The cause of death was asphyxiation from external force, and the case was determined to involve serious criminal conduct. At this point, the entire chain of evidence in the case had formed a tight, closed loop. When investigators laid before Erky one by one, Dainuo's testimony, Jing Ting's statement, and the forensic report, his previously defiant attitude finally crumbled. Realizing there was no way out, his psychological defenses completely collapsed, and Erky confessed to everything he had done on that fateful night 5 years earlier. As it turned out, around 8 p.m. on June 29, 2000, before calling Lily to lure her to the hotel, Erky had already prepared everything for his crime. First, he stopped to buy a bottle of fruit juice right in front of the hotel. Then he went back to his car and retrieved 5 or 6 sedative pills he had prepared in advance. He wrapped the pills in a piece of hotel notepad paper and carefully crushed them into a fine powder. The entire amount of powdered medication was then dumped into the juice bottle. Around 9 p.m., when the naive young woman Lily walked into room 1303 with the simple intention of having a frank conversation to end this persistent harassment, Erky greeted her with a pretense of friendliness and kindness. He graciously offered her the fruit juice. Lily, thinking simply and suspecting nothing, took the bottle and drank it all in one go. For the next half hour or so, Erky made small talk and acted casual to kill time, waiting for the drugs to take effect. Before long, Lily began feeling that something wasn't right. Her head felt heavy, her limbs went weak and limp, her whole body felt like it was about to collapse. Her consciousness also gradually became hazy. Seeing that the drugs had kicked in, Erky immediately made his move. He turned off Lily's phone to cut off all contact with the outside world. He carried the semi-conscious Lily onto the bed, preparing to commit his depraved act. However, right at that moment, the remnants of consciousness within Lily suddenly stirred awake. Realizing the danger she was in, she used every ounce of strength she had to resist and began screaming for help. The hotel's soundproofing wasn't very good, and her cries could easily carry into the hallway. Erky, in his frenzied, bestial state, feared that her screams would alert people in neighboring rooms and cause trouble for him. In his panic, he grabbed a pillow from the bed and pressed it down hard over Lily's face. Under the crushing weight of the pillow and those brutal hands, Lily struggled to fight back, but her body had grown too weak from the effects of the drugs. Her resistance grew weaker and weaker, until finally she fell completely silent and still. After satisfying his depraved urges, Erky stood up and lifted the pillow away. Only then did he realize in horror that Lily was completely motionless, without the faintest breath left in her body. The heinous crime occurred in 2000, but it wasn't until May 15, 2006, 6 years later, that Erky was finally brought to trial. After 9 months of prolonged proceedings with many room sessions, the Anshan City Intermediate People's Court finally handed down its verdict. Erkki was sentenced to life imprisonment with deprivation of political rights for life. However, Lily's family was still not entirely satisfied with this sentence. They argued that Erkki's actions constituted intentional homicide after his attempted assault failed, making the nature of his crime extremely serious and brutal. He should have been sentenced to death to match the crime he committed. Therefore, they continued to file appeals to the Anshan City People's Procuratorate, requesting a heavier punishment. But 1 year later, the Liaoning Provincial High Court rejected the family's appeal and upheld the life sentence. And so, this extraordinary and tragic case that had dragged on for 6 long years through countless hardships, with 6 forensic examinations continuously overturned and rewritten, and the suspect arrested and released 3 times, finally came to an official legal conclusion. And that is the case for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
At manhin, kaya may Calyx D may sapat na vitamins tulong sa alaga ang nerves para may lakas kumakas
Aray ko.
at sa pangarap. Walang bibitiw pag Calyx D araw-araw.
Thank you, guys. Dagdag sa gawain. Buti ko may dagdag sa
built empires. From Seoul to Bangkok, discover 13 Asian power couples who transform their love into wealth and their passion into an unforgettable legacy. Get ready. These stories will surprise, inspire, and make you believe in love again.
Pandesal.
In a world where fame often demands silence, two men chose love
Ah,
over
maga
fear.
pa ayaw ko.
Edison Fan and Rob Seo, names that today represent courage
Kumain ka
and
ba?
success, are rewriting the story of same-sex love in Asia. Their journey is not just a story of romance, but of two souls who dare to live openly in cultures that also display pride, resilience, calm strength perfectly balances Edison's fire. Together, they've become more than a couple. They've become a movement. While much of East Asia is still struggling to fully embrace LGBTQ plus love stories, Edison and Rob are walking side by side, posting photos, traveling the world, showing millions what it means to love openly and fearlessly. Their relationship is cinematic. From Seoul to Shanghai, from candlelit dinners to red carpet nights, they radiate an irresistible charisma. It's not just the extravagance that attracts attention, it's the lives they've built. With an estimated net worth of $1.5 million to $4 million, they represent the quiet rich of Asian entertainment, successful, generous, and humble. But behind that wealth lies something even rarer: authenticity. They use their influence not to show off, but to show what's possible. Edison is open about body positivity, self-acceptance, and the belief that same-sex marriage can bring joy and sustainability. Rob, his rock-solid partner, works behind the scenes: project management, design, investments, a true balance of love and ambition. Together, they prove that strength and tenderness can coexist. That success doesn't have to be lonely. For countless young people across China, Korea, and the world, Edison and Rob are living proof that love can transcend judgment. Two men can build a beautiful, respected, and prosperous life, not in secret, but in the spotlight. Their story is more than a headline. It's a heartbeat, a rhythm that transcends all boundaries, a message whispered softly but powerfully. Be brave, be seen, be loved, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply be yourself. Free, open, beautiful. In modern China, where skyscrapers soar into the sky, a love story quietly shines. The story of Quintus and Kenny, two kindred spirits who have been together for over 12 years and officially tied the knot in May 2018 within the fairy tale walls of Peckforton Castle, England. Their journey, a portrait of elegance, ambition, and clarity. Quintus, a visionary entrepreneur, is the driving force behind 3 thriving companies, each built on sheer determination and belief. But behind that confident exterior is a poetic heart. He is the author of Love is the Magical Nutrient and Blooming Between the Four Worlds, books that combine philosophy with passion, touching the hearts of readers across Asia and beyond. At his side is Kenny, both smart and bold, founder of a luxury cosmetics brand and an entertainment company that redefines modern art. A writer himself, Kenny has captured the essence of love with wit, intelligence, and sincerity, turning emotions into words that reach millions. Together, they have built a world where creativity and strength coexist, and tenderness becomes the fuel of success. Their estimated net worth, between $2 and $4 million, is just a fraction of what they actually possess. Their true wealth lies in the way they look at each other, a bond deeper than fame or money. Fans often say, when Quintus smiles, Kenny's eyes light up like the sunrise. A love written in silence, but seen by the world. What makes them extraordinary isn't just success or beauty, It's the courage to be true to themselves. In a society
Oh!
still learning to accept same-sex love, they chose truth over fear,
Hey!
proving that love and
Ang
ambition
aga-aga,
can
matamis
thrive
siya.
together. Their story is more than just a
Tapos
romance.
daw magkape!
It's a symbol of hope. Quintus and Kenny show that true love builds not just a life, but a legacy.
Dalawa na ako niyan eh.
Woven from honesty, courage, and devotion. Because in the end, the greatest treasure two people can share is the courage to love fearlessly and live without regret.
Hello.
When it comes to modern love stories that defy tradition, few shine brighter than Denny Han and Xiao Hui. Amidst the glittering skyline of Beijing, two young men met behind the scenes of the fashion world, not as celebrities, but as editors who create beauty and elegance for millions of readers at Microsoft Network China. They wrote about love for others, never imagining that one day they would become the story the world couldn't stop talking about. Their journey began quietly in 2015. Photos of the two men in carefully tailored suits, eyes filled with tenderness, went viral on Chinese social media. Comments poured in. Are they models? Actors? Who are they? In just a few weeks, Denny Han and Xiao Hui have been crowned China's most beautiful gay couple.
Hindi naman. Ano lang. Every
But behind that beauty
Tuesday,
lies courage.
Thursday,
The courage
and
to live
Sunday.
honestly in a society still learning to understand same-sex love. In May 2016, they crossed the Pacific
Thank
Ocean
you
to
very
California,
much.
where, under the soft golden sunlight, they exchanged vows
Camera?
in a quiet, elegant ceremony. No press, no spotlight, just two hearts promising
Thank
forever,
you.
finally free to love without fear. They are not billionaires, not movie stars, but they have built a life where
Tagal
fashion
na.
meets freedom. A luxury apartment in Beijing, a luxury car, and a comfortable lifestyle worth between $1 and $2 million US. More than material things, it's a life defined by taste, friendship, and peace. They travel the world dressed to match and share moments of love online. Their morning coffee, their gentle laughter, the way they look at each
Okay
other.
na.
To their followers, they represent something rare: stability, elegance, and authenticity in a world obsessed with perfection. What makes them so compelling
Okay
isn't
lang.
wealth or fame, it's balance. They work together, they create together, they live as if life were a timeless photo shoot, proving that love doesn't need fame to shine. It just needs honesty and two hearts brave enough to protect it.
Matagal na.
In China, their story has opened the door of peace for others, proving that success and sincerity can coexist. Today, when people talk about Denny Han and Xiao Hui, they see them not just as a couple. They see a quiet revolution, a reminder that true love, lived openly, is the greatest luxury in the world. Have you ever witnessed a love story so real that it transcends fame? Let me know in the comments. Where are you watching? Because tonight we're exploring one of Asia's most powerful love stories, one that redefines courage, success, and beauty in every sense. This is the story of Miu Supasit and Tulpa Korn,
Ano
Thailand's
yan
most
to? Ayan,
influential openly gay
mag-subscribe
couple,
ka
a couple whose relationship
Notification bell.
outshines even the bright spotlight.
Para
Miu, a
parati kang
multi-talented actor, singer, and
notify
entrepreneur,
na
has built his empire on
naka-live ako.
charm and brains. Tool, an
Ganun
architect
lang.
turned actor, brings grace,
Thank
poise,
you.
and balance. Together, they created something money can't buy, a bond that has touched millions of hearts. Their relationship began quietly, in an industry where silence is often safer than the truth. But Miu and Tool chose honesty. They chose freedom. In a world still learning to love across gender lines, their decision to stand together was not just personal, it was revolutionary. Today, they are more than just celebrities. They are symbols of presence and pride across Asia, from Bangkok to Seoul, from Tokyo to Los Angeles. With an estimated combined income of $3 to $6 million, they have turned their success into a purpose, investing in film, music, and humanitarian projects that amplify the voices of the LGBTQ plus community. Luxury follows them everywhere. Private villas, high-end fashion collaborations, red carpet premieres. But what attracts fans most isn't the wealth. It's the way they look at each other, with ease, respect, and sincerity. Every smile on screen feels natural. Every gesture whispers, this is real. Critics
Malayo
call
ba?
them Asia's golden couple, but those who truly understand their story call them something deeper. Proof that love, when not afraid, can change cultures.
Lapit
So
lang.
wherever you're watching the show from, America, Europe, the Middle East, or Asia,
Philippines.
remember this. Stories like Mew and Tools remind us that love is not a fad. It's a truth worth seeing, appreciating, and living to the fullest. We're here to share those truths, new stories,
Ano
fresh
po, send
perspectives,
ko sa
meaningful
live.
conversations that connect us all. Because in the end, love,
Folding.
true, brave, unapologetic love is the most beautiful luxury of all. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you listening from? Because love like this is not just seen, it's
Kahit
felt,
ano.
and it deserves to be celebrated everywhere in the world. This is the story of Porsche Apiwat and Armsap and Yu, one of Asia's most beautiful and inspiring same-sex couples. A love that started from the sparks of youth and grew strong enough to overcome time, fame, and social prejudice.
Yes, sir. Hindi ko din ano dito. Hindi ko mapindot. Dito. Thank you. You're gonna donate what? Oh. Okay. PayPal. I have no PayPal. I have no crypto link. Where? In my in my WhatsApp number. WhatsApp. Yes, I have. The same. The same in my name. Here. I have the Instagram, Joohoney. Okay. You're welcome. What? See? Siya ay see? It's so easy. Welcome. I have so many laundry. See? Mami ang labahay ko, no?
Tapos biglang stomach pain at pangangasim, baka hyperacidity na yan. Mag-Kremil S tablet agad. The best brand for hyperacidity. Buy now. Hello, aloe. Hello, smoothness. Now with 2 times aloe vera concentrate in the new Palmolive Naturals for up to 20.
Oh, si Joohoney. Oh. What should I talk about? Ang dami naman. Bye. Thank you. God bless. Thank you for the support.